You're screwed.
3, 2, and 1. Hey guys, it's Kip with DT4EMS for the 75th take. I'm here with Jim and Jen. And Jen and I have been like family since 2009, and I've had a bromance with her hubby that's standing back over here.
Come in the video for a second.
Come on, come on, sweetness.
Say hi.
Lean in.
Give him the gun show.
Say.
Just thinking.
Here's
hey,
Chris.
y'all.
There you go.
So Jim is really been instrumental in helping us grow here in Colorado. And thankfully, Jen has been the driving force for multiple states. But without going too much into that, and guys, I'm sorry for being sleep happy and my brain isn't 100% processing here. But what I do want to do is say, hey, Jim and I were talking about some stuff, and Jen and I have talked about a bazillion things over the years. But there's a couple of quick things that I want to point out, and that's that, Jen is an educator, has tried through multiple states to get us there. And it was in Wisconsin first, then Texas, and literally right after, she would move, maybe it's a sign, I don't know, but right after she would move, we would get called into that state to come teach. Maybe she was doing something really evil, I don't know. Jen, you've been with us since 2009, and you've really been a big help. That goes without saying, and you've always been a huge proponent of trying to get people to listen to the message. Now that you're finally seeing it come to fruition, all the hard work and all the no's, we talked about that before, that people are, we don't need this, we don't. But now that you're really starting to see it move forward, what do you think? I mean, what are your thoughts right now about EVE and DT4EMS and how hard you've been working since 2009 till now? What are your thoughts? Just anything that comes to mind.
I think the biggest thing that comes to mind, one of the things is you constantly get the door slammed in your face. So I would present the information. I believe in the information. I believed in it since 2009. I went to my instructor class and I was hooked the first day. I knew it was something that was very important for EMS community. And so even when I thought a door was closed, I walked through it and just barreled through it. And it was really, really difficult to do. And after you keep being told, no, we don't need this, or the college is saying I can't add 16 hours to our curriculum, you get discouraged. And I'm sure it's happening to some of you by now. But in the springs when I met Jim, I walked through that door that I thought was closed, and I took a chance and just swallowed my pride and went to talk to Jim anyway. And for those of you out here who are nervous to talk to somebody about it, do it. Have that passion because you believe in it, and it's okay to believe in it. There are other people around you in the nation that have the same passion you do, and it's okay to feel that way. And so it's been an amazing ride what's happening here in Colorado. My intention was only to teach it where I'm from and where I teach, but then Jim came alongside, and it's just kind of exploded in this area, and I'm very thankful for it. But for those of you who just feel discouraged, keep going. Reach out to Kip, reach out to Jim, myself on Facebook, ask for questions. When you feel down about it, let us know. We're here to help.
Because that was what was probably one of the best things and the best feelings that I've ever had was that, I get it because I wrote it and I would fight and I would struggle and I'd try to get people to listen, but then, it always felt like I was alone, and then there would be one here and one there and then one other person here, and those would be the ones that would really try to, and I don't even know if they really tried per se, but it was because of their faith or their belief. Because when I talk to people like Jen, and when you see her credentials, you realize that, hey, she's an intelligent lady, she's well educated, she's a very great educator, and so you have that and you look at it and go, man, so she believes, and then others believe, and so you finally get it, and then now we have a place that was full of administration and educators here at the Safety Summit, and they were receptive today.
They were very receptive.
And that was kind of a neat thing. So it's been, most certainly a roller coaster ride. And you've probably seen as much as anybody has because you've really been able to follow it and see it, and we've become family. And there was definitely a synergism that occurred once you guys got together. It really, you were bringing a message, and he had already researched a need, and so it was kind of like finally, and it was. We were talking, and if you would. Just mention, if you don't care, like you had already were working on an Excel thing, and you were talking about you were already realizing that, hey man, we got to be doing something, that there's a problem. Why did that all come about, and what all was happening with that? What even made you look into the violence issue legitimately, whether it had anything to do with DT4EMS, but why did you first start looking?
So we had a couple, in 2015, the operation I worked for, we had a couple of employees that were assaulted. One employee was assaulted twice, a female employee. She had short curly hair, and twice somebody grabbed a hold of her hair and slugged her. Another time we had an individual who was assaulted in a lockdown facility with a person who was calm, collected, happy-go-lucky, right up until the moment that he turned into the non-patient. So beginning January 1st of 2016, I started tracking assaults. Put it out to all our employees numerous times. Hey, if you have to go hands-on with someone, if you get hit by a patient, a bystander, anything like that, we need to know about it. When we started selling this, when we met with AMR, it was the middle of March last year, and at that point we had 17 documented assaults in our operation. By the end of last year, we had 40 documented, and I know that's not all of them because 4 of the assaults were reported by one person on a course eval after the EVE class, and it literally said, "This is an awesome course, it's much needed, I've been assaulted 4 times this year."
That you had no idea, even though you had already put it out that said, look, let us know if this is happening, and they still didn't talk about it.
Absolutely, and I know this person was present several times when I put that message out that, hey, report it to us, let us know.
And by no means are we going, putting any blame on that person, because we know it's a cultural issue.
Absolutely. So, but I knew that I wanted something, and had researched DT4EMS and the EVE course many times, and online, looked it up, knew that's what I wanted, but I had to show the need, because the need drives the dollars,
Right.
and the dollars get you the training.
Well, and so my question would be, is that, you've been in EMS for a while, you're an educated fella. Why do you think you were different and actually wanted to begin to track assaults when we can't get, we're now getting better, but ask Jen, look how long we've gone for years, and we're shaking the trees and we're screaming, going, you're not listening, you're not looking. Look at even in that room today when I showed all those videos and I said, how many of you guys knew any of those? Remember? We did it, and what'd you see? The audience is like, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's just not news, but that's, my point is why then did you start really, looking, and if you were looking, why aren't others? Whether they use us or not. My point is, why are you not addressing?
For me, it was personal. I took I was actually the on-duty supervisor the 2 times that female was struck. I was on an ambulance. I couldn't respond. I couldn't be involved. It was very personal to me, and I felt helpless.
Oh, so you mean if you actually cared about somebody, would care about their longevity, their safety? Huh, gee, go figure. It's not a jab, I'm just trying to prove a point.
But that's the thing is, I'm here to take care of these folks. I don't take care of patients on a regular basis anymore. I take care of my employees. That's my job.
So the focus has changed,
Yes.
because if you take care of them, they can take care of people.
Absolutely.
Well, now that you've been teaching people, so you went off, you became an instructor, there's, and Brett will always have Denver apparently, but since you've had
I like it.
and so we'll throw him under one of our instructor trainers under the bus as well, which by the way, Jen is also an instructor trainer with us. He's an instructor now with us. But now that you've been teaching and you're sharing the message, what are you seeing more often than not from your people when you're delivering the message, and how is it received, and what are your perceptions of what you're witnessing during the program now that you're presenting it?
During the program, we're seeing a lot of people that are initially come in maybe as naysayers, and they just come because a friend of theirs came, and by the end of the morning on the first day, they're like, holy cow, there's something to this. And by
so
the
the
end
first
of the
4
course,
hours makes them change their mind.
but by the end of the course, it's night and day. We have a 30-year veteran with us who's actually an instructor now because of that, because he came to us at the end of the
So a
course. and
30-year
said,
veteran wanted to be an instructor after the fact, was a naysayer initially.
Yep.
Ain't that something? And there's a 30-year veteran in Indy, same thing, now an instructor for us. I was never a 30-year veteran in an urban environment, so there's something that if those people are thinking it, there's got to be something to it, that they got to go, because it isn't about how brilliant we as trainers are. It isn't about anything special. It's about us looking at it and going, wait a minute, here's the problem, let's fix the problem, or let's at least offer a solution. So if your people are liking it, apparently there's relationships that have been formed, because Brett will always have Denver. Thank God it didn't happen in, what's that place everything stays in?
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah, we couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. Couldn't talk about it at all. It's like Fight Club. But, you know, if someone was, you know, an educator or an administrator or a supervisor, and they were researching and they're out looking, why do you think that they should at least look at DT4EMS EVE? Why should they even consider this program? You know, if you had a peer and you had a minute or two to tell them, what would you try to tell them to go, look, you know, make your own decision, but at least, you know, look at the options? Is there anything in particular that
I think
comes
it's
to
the
mind?
focus on the tactics and what's reasonable and getting out of that situation.
So we're not kill a man in 3 moves.
We are not.
No.
I think another part of the program that I know helped with our area is that we really focus on customer service. That's the best self-defense you can have, is good customer service. And when administrators hear that, they love that. And that's it, hands down. Good customer service, and that's where that focus is, and that's a big part of
But that
EVE.
frontline staff member that hears us say, great customer service is hands down the best self-defense tactic there is in healthcare, immediately folds up and goes, this is more
Right.
of that crap that admin's trying to shove down our throats, and great customer, that's a bunch of bullshit, or however they want to say it. When you really lump it all down in there, you go, wait, although we started the self-defense looking, going, but let's tell the truth to the frontline staff that's going to protect them beforehand, during an incident, and after, right? And in order for us to really do that, it has to have great customer service if we're caught on camera, so that if we are attacked, we look like we were doing everything to prevent. Then actual techniques, should they have messed up on a tactic, because the tactics are sound, are they not?
They are.
It's that if you're using a technique, it's because you skipped a tactic somewhere. One on, if you claim to be a defensive tactics instructor or self-defense instructor, you need to get your ass kicked. Because if you will do that every once in a while, by going in and, you know, it's going to that other gym where you get beat. It's going to that place because if you get beat up, you get hungry again, you know? And that's been really my blessing, I think, is I've been surrounded by people that are willing to beat me up. And in doing so, that is what I think keeps us hungry as trainers, is because, you know, no two people move the same. My truth is different than your truth. Your truth is different than her truth. But it's through that training with multiple people and body styles and experiences, and that all of a sudden you go, oh my goodness. So would you agree that, and I'm asking you here, because you and I first met face to face here last night. So that's the first time ever. Would you agree that the material that you're presenting to the people, or that even as you saw it yourself in the beginning from the DT4EMS EVE, that your brain went, oh my gosh, we are making critical thinkers?
But there's a lot of conviction in the instructors that I've seen
Right.
from the get-go.
And that's
Jen,
huge.
Brett, we'll always have Denver Brett.
You'll always have Denver.
Yeah. I mean, there was so much conviction and so much, there's a lot of conviction in the lessons that we're teaching, the material that you provide us. And it makes it easy to teach and have that conviction and pass that message on to the people that this isn't right. We're not here to get beat on.
Because you saw it initially. You went, she was attacked, and you didn't feel that that was right. Okay? And so, like what many have done over the years, you look for options, but what you did was really great, was really, you know, start to try to track things and try to, you know, bring it out. And what was interesting, and Lopez can attest to these and some of the others, is that once they really start training and your people start rolling out that training to the staff, that what we start seeing is calls to law enforcement go up, but our injury rate begins to go down. And then because at first, you know, admin will begin to panic. You know, we especially see it in the hospitals when the ERs are using this. They're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Cops are here like every 15 minutes. Well, now you're doing what you should have been doing forever. You know, the cops should be dealing with the criminals, not the nurses.
And I actually had some of our police officers call me complaining that we were calling them too much. So I actually went to the police district. I sat down with them and laid it out, handed them my spreadsheet and said, here's why we're calling you. This is how many times it happened last year, and they were just dumbfounded by that figure.
So what dumbfounded, right? And yet you knew that those numbers were way underreported, particularly, right? Because we know that 80 to 100% of a room admits the fact that they've been criminally assaulted on the job, admitted they've been assaulted, but only 2 to 3% ever admitted it, right? Because of our culture, we say we don't talk about it, so on and so forth. So you did what we've asked people to do, which said it's not for our frontline staff to argue about this on the side of the road. It's for admin to speak with admin in an educational opportunity, because the police officers want to do their job like we want to do our job. But if they don't know what the problem is, because we've been acting, standing, talking like cops, they just think we know more than what we do. And it's our fault. It is.
My fault exactly. Just a few blocks from here 20 years ago, my partner and I would be tying people up in the back of the ambulance. The cops would be outside holding their watches going, all right, go. And timing us and laughing about it.
And it was a joke, you know, but let that get caught on camera today, and how big is that lawsuit? For everybody involved.
It's going to be ugly.
So and that's the least amount of the ugliness. But oh my gosh, because then the lawsuit is one thing, but then what about the public perception of us? And that's hard to put a dollar figure on, because how many millions of dollars would you have to spend to go? Our people aren't out there trying to rodeo, lasso you. We're not trying to beat people up, and that's another piece that people just don't always put to the forefront. But if you had to, well, first of all, so do you enjoy being an instructor? Is it a
being
reward?
an instructor. We've gotten a lot of stories over the last year from the people that we've taught. I'm teaching primarily people that work for me or people that work with Jen down in Pueblo. But I've probably gotten 5 or 6 stories just from the people that have been through our classes. She got one just this week from one of our new instructors.
And so isn't it interesting and they're moving when they really tell you the truth, isn't it?
They're excited too.
Because there's been time after time over the years, people would come and take a trainer, right? And then they would go back and they would teach the people, and my phone would ring, or I'd immediately get an email, and it would start off with, "Oh my God, you're not gonna believe what happened." And they begin to tell about how they were teaching their class, and the moment they really, because you gotta admit, we're having the people see the truth. You can't tell a paramedic anything. You gotta reveal it to them if you really wanna make it stick, right? So they would go back and they would, teach a class, and one that sticks out in my brain is an assistant chief in a fire department outside of St. Louis. And so he goes back, teaches his class, and he's like, "Man," he said, "you're not gonna believe this." He said, once the people started, really talking about it, he said, "So-and-so had a story, and so-and-so had a story, and so-and-so had a story." And then all of a sudden, he's looking at the people in the room going, "But wait a minute, our kids go to college together. They grew up in church together. We've been friends for years. And I never knew that happened to you. How did I know that happened?" Why? We've shamed them into silence. We're like, this isn't a subject that you should talk about. It's not, it's not cool to talk about. We're not talking about how many fights we were able to beat people up in. You know what I mean? It's just and what's interesting is anybody that's ever been truly afraid for their life in a violent encounter doesn't walk around joking about the use of force anymore, because it's no longer funny to them. When you are that close to death, there's no humor in it. But I know Jen's had a warning, and you agree that now. Well, let me ask, because I haven't asked you guys this. So in Jersey City, the guys were talking and we're discussing about how after class they would be teaching, and these are Jersey City. I mean, that's inner city folks, and they would be like, "Man, I knew him, but I didn't care about him," and he could and foul and filth and foul about something. But then we're like, "Man, once we were training together, we're like, wow, man, really?" And so it formulated like different relationships, and whether it be jiu-jitsu or Kali or anything where you're really intimate with some form of training starts to formulate relationships. Do you think people see one another differently? Do they maybe look at the company differently? Does the company look at them differently once they've been trained, because they maybe see something in a different light? Have any comments on that?
I think the best description of that is we do this in our new hire academies. It's now part of our curriculum of our new hire academy. And it's a great way to build a bond with those folks. They're brand new to the company. They're just walking in. We're going to spend a couple of weeks together, but the first couple of days they're sitting there learning EVE.
Right. And we're trying now to purposely schedule it, right? It's either the first 2 days or the second day of their NEAT.
Yeah.
And they get to spend time right now with Jim and I. But it's just, they come back out of the academy just with this cohesiveness. And the academies that we have in our areas, they're hard. And we have a lot of testing and things like that, so they have this cohesive already. We see them go out to lunch together more. We see them study groups more. We see that, and the nice thing is Jim and I work at different operations, but we're very close to each other. We're about 45 minutes from each other. Our operations combine when we do the EVE class. So the other thing that we've seen too is that there's a camaraderie now that's starting between the operations, because they've taken EVE together, and they've I don't know, for lack of a better term, popped that bubble. I mean, they're now friends. They know each other.
And for me as a supervisor, I'm actually a point of contact for these folks.
That's
they
great.
They get to know me in 2 days.
Me too.
In a different way too,
Yeah.
because especially when if the message is right, they really start to feel, oh my gosh, that you care about me.
Yeah, I get stories from the last group went through 2 months ago now, and I have 3 or 4 employees that come in on a daily basis to tell me how they're doing in their field training officer program.
Very cool.
So I'm not there as a mentor, obviously there as a supervisor, but they come and approach me in that manner as a mentor.
And you also have to agree that as a trainer, and you can chime in on it as well, but you notice how we can begin to see who people are in a 16-hour program, even more so in Train the Trainer. Once we've been together 40 hours just of classroom time, not to mention all the homework stuff and this and that, all the other practice time, but you get to see who they are. And that's actually kind of a neat way, but I didn't think too much of it looking at it like that, because being in the supervisor role, then pretty much no matter what happens now, they're going to feel more comfortable to speak to you about something, you know what I mean? And so that's an interesting take that I never really looked at much.
It works for me too. I mean, I'm the training officer, so I do all the QA, QI. I'm the Monday morning quarterbacker for everybody's calls. I'm the one that if you mess up, I'm the one who's going to call you. And so I find that they'll come in as well for me and say, hey, Jen, I messed up on a call. Can we talk about it? And I find that they're more apt to come to me.
Because wait a minute, those people are human too, right?
They are.
And wait.
We all make
So we
mistakes.
train them in how to deliver medications and how to read medications and how to, all the R's of medications, right? And what's like the number one mistake in medicine?
Medication.
Oh, medication errors. Just say it. So
It's late.
we don't. Sorry, I'm just guessing, right? Oh, right.
Yeah.
But it's like, you look at that, and so we can have someone give a medicine that kills a child, right? We know the family's going to sue, but we don't immediately fire that employee. We try to fix them, right? We remediate. Why? Because we're humans, and the training is going to reduce the number of zeros. That shouldn't be the ultimate goal, but that is one of the pieces of it, training. But yeah, that's really great though. That because I don't really look at it so much like that, at this stage, but that they feel more open. But then you also now have a feel for them, because you'll be able to know who they are. That if they're trying to pull a fast one, that's one thing. You'll be like, wait a minute, Johnny. That's cool. Is there? Because I've tried to pinch Jen for forever to get her on video just to say something, because I wanted people to see that we have strong guys, we have ladies, we have big strong guys, we've got all people of all different facets that are now
Did you
part
just call
of.
Jen
Did you just
weak?
call me weak? We've got strong
I
guys
said
and then we
weak.
got ladies. I think you did.
I didn't know.
I
No,
think you
I
did.
was trying to say she
Chris.
was a lady.
And then
Call
his
me
love
weak.
interest Chris is over there, big strong guy.
You caught that, the big strong guy. What's up, yo? But but is there anything that you guys think people should hear? I mean, anything that you want to because it's always weird, when I'm trying to say it, because it's like, but because I don't want people to think that it's like, oh, look at me talk about how wonderful I am. That's never been me. But is there something you guys wanted to say about the program as to why it makes sense? Anything that comes to mind?
One thing I want to point out about, we were talking about you find out who people are. We find out personalities. We find out things about them during class that we would have never found out about them on the back end. And I think that's really cool. The Train the Trainer program that I did, my first one that I did this last month, I had one of the people come up to me and they said, Jen, you changed me. You changed me on how I see things. And he said one of the most refreshing things was that the passion that we have, and that me and Chris and Jim, that we're all there helping, teaching, the passion that we had for this was amazing, because he always felt like, oh, it's not okay to have a passion for this. It's not okay to be concerned about my safety and my partner's safety and EMS and fire safety in general. But we were able to show him that it is okay. There are people out there that believe that, and I think that was a huge just eye-opener for me, because I forgot what it's like to be alone in that arena, because I've had Jim and Janae, our other instructor, that have been nice to have, but when you're alone, and maybe you haven't
fought
taken
that
it,
fight
I did.
because you were in, again, in Wisconsin, you were in
Right.
Texas, you were trying to get people to go look. It's kind of like that whole thing of, you've seen the cure,
Right.
For a problem, and you're trying to get them to go, and they go, well, we don't have a problem.
Right.
And you're going, but that's the problem. You don't know that you've got a problem. And so,
I think people are hesitant to take EVE too on their own, because they feel like, oh, I don't need to take this class because I'm kind of, I don't know, embarrassed that I want to take the class, because you have the people, oh, you don't need a self-defense class. You're just going to hit them in the head with an O2 bottle and it'll be fine. You're going to do whatever you can to go home at night. That's not going to work. And so if you want to go to an EVE class, go. Don't wait. Don't sit there and think, oh, I don't need it, because when you hesitate and you don't go, that'll be the one time you're going to wish you went, because you do become assaulted and you didn't have the tools you needed to survive.
because there's so much more to it than just the technique,
Yes.
just that there's an entire toolbox that all goes together to make them those critical thinkers. And it is like, I've been blessed because, granted, I may have started this thing, but anymore, I just drive the short bus and pass out the Kool-Aid, because it's like, now people a lot smarter than me, a lot stronger, faster, more brilliant, are the ones that are moving it forward. So that's the piece that I was pretty thankful for. And we were kind of talking about that at dinner, that Chris and I were discussing it, and he's like, happy to see it kind of finally coming to fruition, because those that have known me for a long time know that this is an important thing to me, to my family, to to make that mark, and to leave some form of make the world a better place type of thing. And we're just trying to do it in the only thing that I know how to do. But it's really been cool to see it finally get here, because to see a room full of people that we had, it was unique, because normally I might get one or two admin or supervisors. This was all we really were. And even when I presented on the national track at the national conferences on an admin track, we still didn't get this kind of a turnout. And yet when the message was presented, you watched all those people go, oh my gosh. And they went,
Well, there was once one person specifically in the room that initially was like this. By the end, it was like with their mouth open, shaking their head in agreement.
and you've seen every one of your students that came in initially to your classes like this by hour 4 going,
Yeah.
because we can't tell them, we just got to reveal the truth to them. Guys, I've hung them up long enough. I finally roped them in, so if nothing else, I got evidence, yo. But anyway, thank you, brother. It's really nice to meet you finally face to face. Jen, we'll shake hands on here, and
We'll hug later.
That's right. After I,
Hug my
get
husband.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets it first. But guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm Kip. We got Jim and Jen. Chris has been back over there, and
Bye, Brett.
We'll always have Denver. See you guys soon. Oh.